Hello. As you know, natural ponds have been disappearing at an alarming rate over the past 100 years, but the creation of a small wildlife pond in your garden is an easy task these days, given the amount of waterproofing materials available. They can be done in a very short time, and in this video John's going to show you how to install a plastic pond in your garden, thus giving all the wildlife an extra chance, as John will explain. Hello, welcome to John Horsey Horticulture. John's been teaching horticulture professionally for over 30 years now, and on this channel we're hoping to help you develop your gardening skills. Whether you're new to gardening and looking for some basic foundations on propagation techniques, wildlife gardening, growing some vegetables, or whether you're a seasoned horty who could always use some tips and advice. If you like learning those things, do consider following us. There's no charge, just push the subscribe button. Don't forget to push the all-important notification bell. That lets you know every time we upload a new video.
Hello. One of my favourite subjects today is garden ponds. I love garden ponds. I just love the fact, first of all, you can grow a range of different plants. It's just having water in the garden is just rather lovely. But the plants are important, but also in a wildlife garden it really is important, because practically everything needs to drink. You know, a garden pond will give all the mammals somewhere to drink. The birds all like to drink, and of course the birds will even bathe in it as well. And I often sit in my office and look out over the first pond we have and see the blackbirds and the thrushes having a little splash. It's great to think you're helping them to do that. They're also, of course, crucially important for things like amphibians, the frogs, toads and newts, which need the water to breed. They need to lay their eggs, the tadpoles to hatch. Half of their life is actually spent in the water, so it's quite important. And as adults, a lot of them come back to cool off in the water, especially in the summer. I had to mention honeybees. Honeybees need to make a lot of honey. Water is very important to them. At the moment, I'm really excited because we've got about 4 of the large dragonflies zooming around the place. So it really is a very lovely thing to be able to do. Now, the pond we're looking at today, I created a few years back. It looked rather lovely when it was there. It was quite small. I put things like crocosmias around it and little platycodons, and they look rather lovely. But the trouble is, crocosmias can and do get quite big, and it just seemed a couple of years I turned around and the whole pond seemed to be lost to the crocosmias. So what I'm going to do today is first of all, I've got the crocosmias up. I've got the old pond out, and I'm going to put a new one in the position where it was. It's slightly bigger, and this time I shall make sure that the crocosmias are to the back of the pond, so they look natural. They do look good against water, the sort of reed effect, but they'll be to the back of the pond, so they won't obscure the view as we look at it. So there we are. We've got the site ready, and we'll see how we start the process of putting the liner in. Here's the rigid liner that I'm going to use. It's obviously been used before, but it's quite sufficient for what we want, and it'll fit nicely onto that site. They have ledges in, as you can see here, which we will allow for in a minute, because we have to put there for planting marginals, of course. So it is quite deep. It's perhaps more deeper than we want for a wildlife pond, but eventually that will fill up with silt and detritus anyway and bring it to the level we require. Now, to get an idea of the size of the pond, where it fits and how to start digging, I'm going to take this liner, take this rigid pond, and place it upside down on the site where I need it to be. What I've done now is I've laid the pond actually on the site that I want. I can position it from here. I can see that it's vaguely central and it's giving enough room. I quite like to have a little border on the front for choicer things, and there's room at the back there, so those crocosmias can make it look very natural. So that's the sort of shape I want, and the process now is to mark it out, usually by digging. So I can go around and I just put the spade down like that and pull it back, and that will give me an idea of the size of the pond, so I know where to dig. So I go right the way round like this, marking it out, just so I can see where to start digging properly in a minute, and then I can get the levels and everything right. move that to one side and leave it, and that's where I'm going to start digging the pond out. Right, well here we are. I've finished digging the hole, and I've made sure that it's big enough for the mould. Now, they're so light you can lift them out and you can check it. You can see actually I put a little bit of sand in there to bed it down, and that's to make sure there's no really sharp stones. A little bit's gone down the side there. I'll have to go and pick that out, and that stone would not be any good. So we'll just get rid of that. We've got the basic shape here though. In it goes. And that fits in quite nicely. Now what I'm going to do, just to be on the safe side, is I'm going to put the level on here to make sure that we're still level. We'll do it that way. Yeah, look at that. That's spot on. Can you see the hole, see the level in there? And that would be just right for the water levels. What I'm going to do now, before I go filling up around it, is to make sure that it doesn't move and it's fixed. I'm going to fill up the bottom part of that pond, which will then firm it in, and it means that when I go and I put the soil around it, it won't move. Now you're really going to make sure that it goes underneath here where the levels were, because it takes some of the weight. It can take the weight of that water when it comes down. It's not going to be tremendous weight, but just supports it a little bit. And we need to do that all the way around the pond really. Right, now I'm going to just carry on and fill it right up. And then we've still got quite a lot of soil to go in around the side here and around the back, but that can be done in due course. Basically now it's a question of filling it up and letting it settle, and then later on hopefully tomorrow we can come along and start planting it. I always think these things look awful when you can see the plastic, so you can get this edging material, which I'm going to put around the side. This is quite an old strip, which is quite nice really because it's already matured, but basically what you have here is a few slugs. You have this is plastic, and on this side is stone. It's called pond edging, and you simply lay it along the edge like this, and then as I put the soil around it I will firm it in, and that will give me a nice edging to the pond. And I will do that all the way around. The other thing about the plastic sheeting is that it does mean that if any unfortunate little rodent or animal falls in during the night, it can climb out and it won't drown. The thing you should do as soon as you can with the pond is to get some weed in, some pond weed, because that'll start naturalising the water. And the one I strongly recommend is Ceratophyllum, which is the hornwort. This is Ceratophyllum or pondweed. Even got a few little insects on, like water lice, and I've got a snail there too, so get them going quickly as we can. A bit of frog bit, that's quite nice, no problem. Ceratophyllum's a very good one. It'll grow in quite shady conditions, and it never gets over the top like things like Elodea does and become invasive. So that's what it looks like out of water, but we'll show you a slide of it actually in the pond and you'll get a better idea of it. But it's got this sort of whorled texture, and it is really the best pondweed to use. There we are. I'm going to leave that to go, And then tomorrow when you come back, I'll have all that finished, and we can think about planting it up with pond plants. I'm going to go and sit there and have a cup of tea, cool off.
Well, we do hope that gave you some ideas, and if you like that and would like to follow us, do consider following us. Just press the subscribe button, no charge, push the notification bell, that lets you know every time we upload a new video. In the meantime, thanks so much for joining us here in Somerset. We very much enjoyed having you. Until next time.